Welcome back to my channel for this week's Human Design Transit Report. Today is Monday, February 6th, and the new transit starts on Wednesday, February 8th. So if you want to know what's happening right now with the sun and the earth, you should watch last week's transit report because that's where I talked about it. And then this week's transit report, let's talk about the transit that starts on Wednesday. Okay, let's get started. Let's take a look at this overall chart. And because I want to point out to you what we might call a conundrum, that's what Karen Curry Parker would call it. I would call it a creative tension that is going on between the two channels that are defined during this current transit. So one is the 3536, which is emotional energy going to the throat, and it's in the sensing circuit. So it's creative, it's expansive, it's embodied, it's experiential, it's all of those things. It's not logical or rational or reasonable or any of that kind of stuff. Then we also have the 63-4, and the 4 is being lit up by the earth. So it's a particularly important one during this transit. And it's the beginning of the logic circuit, which is strategic and analytical and likes planning and is detail oriented, tends to be really focal and not expansive. And so it's a very different energy, right? So we've got right brain energy and left brain energy, both really highlighted during this time, and actually quite a bit of emotional energy. So just from an overall glance at this chart, one of the things that you might want to be paying attention to is if you do feel some tension between the part of you that is more emotional, is more expansive, is not particularly rational or reasonable, maybe creative or experiential, and the part of you that is really liking things to be orderly and wants things to be in their right place and wants to know that the patterns are aligned and all of that, right? So both are helpful. Neither one of them is bad or wrong at all. But sometimes when they're lit up at the same time, you can feel a little bit like you're pulling one side to the other. And just side note, if you see this in your chart overall, where you've got a lot of the sensing circuit and then you've got a lot of the logic or pattern circuit, that you might feel a little bit of pushing and pulling between those two different types of energies. The sun will be lighting up the gate 49, which is on the emotional solar plexus. And so we do have another form of emotional energy in addition to the 3536 being lit up. And the 49 is in the tribal circuit. And so it does have to do with relationships. And with this one, it can do with love relationships. It's also in the business or the commerce circuit. So it doesn't necessarily have to do just with like our families, okay, or our beloveds. It can have to do also with the people that we are doing business with, right, or that we're in community with. And so this, in traditional human design, it's called principles, and in quantum human design, it's been renamed as the catalyst. And in some places, it's called revolution, because revolution is in the I Ching name for this particular energy. And so it does have to do with our relationships, and it has to do with what are our relationships based on, right? And that's why principles is here, right? Because principles is like, what are the values that we have around relationship? What are the principles that we have around relationship that has to do with how we treat each other, communication, responsibility, accountability, communication, all of those different things, right? We can have principles around them. And it's important that in our important relationships that we're very aligned regarding our principles, right? Because that's how we can really kind of bond and then, move the needle on things that we care about if we're working on projects together. Okay, so it's called the catalyst, with the idea of it's possible that we might need to revolutionize or upgrade some of our relationships. Now, the tendency of the 49 when it's not really in its power is to either stay in a relationship for too long or to quit too early because it gets scared, right? Because it's emotional. Right. And so it can be like, I'm out of here. Like something isn't working the way I wanted to. I'm out of here, or I'm just going to stay and I'm going to see if I can work it out. I know it's abusive, but you know what? I see the potential. So I'm just going to stick it out. Like, don't do those two things. Not good. Not good for you. So what you want to be able to do is to just be tuning into like, what it is that really matters to me? What the basis for a relationship that's really going to suit me, is really going to nourish me, help me be the person that I want to be so I can show up in my life the way I really want to show up. Ideally, we surround ourselves with people who help us to show up as our best selves, right? They help us to bring out the best in us, right? To inspire us and help us move beyond what we've been able to manifest in our lives before. Right? So if the people who are in your life, whether in your community or in your business or close in, are not doing that for you, or you're not doing it for them, right? Then this is where you want a catalyst that's going to come in and shake things up. And it doesn't necessarily mean that the relationship needs to end, but it does mean that it needs to be transformed. Right. And that potentially there's some revolutionary energy that's going to come here and help make that happen. Now, because it's emotional, we do want to give it time. It's really important not to act out of triggered emotional energy if possible. And that obviously is something that can show up in the 49, right? Like I was just saying, like quitting too early, like I'm out of here, right? Just because you got flustered about something. So you don't want to get triggered if you can't, or if you do get triggered, you want to give time so that that energy can settle down and you can kind of get a clearer understanding and a clearer feeling about what's actually right for you. Acting too quickly on anything that's on the emotional solar plexus is not generally a good idea, because many times, we're just kind of distorted by some emotional energy that we don't quite have a handle on yet. Then the Earth is lighting up the gate 4, which is on the Ajna center, and it is in the logic or pattern circuit, as I said a moment ago. And in traditional human design, it's known as answers, and in quantum human design, it's known as possibility. And this is an important distinction because really kind of the negative side, and it could be disempowered or it could be a shadow state of the 4 is to reach conclusions too quickly, right? To think that you have the answers to things, to demand answers, right? Rather than being able to stay in the spirit of possibility. The mate of the 4 is the 63, which is curiosity in quantum human design. So you want to be able to stay with kind of open-minded. The thing is about the ajna, right? This green triangle, is it tends to get a bit stubborn and a little bit closed in its point of view. So you want to watch out for that with the 4 and just keep kind of moving into a state of possibility. And as soon as you start to feel yourself kind of close down, that you start to open up again, you say, what else is possible, right? What else could be possible? If this were to change, how would that, what would that do in my life, right? If this possibility came in, how would that influence me, or how would that influence the people around me? Okay. That channel 63-4 is a channel where potentially really new ideas could be coming in through that logic circuit. Absolutely. I mean, it has that just like the other channels that go with the head and the ajna. It's just a little more detail oriented, and it's going to want to kind of investigate it once it comes in, but it can stay, particularly at this point, in this higher frequency of possibility. We do have a little bit of support here with Jupiter being in the 17. And the 17 is also in the logic circuit, and it is positive anticipation, right? In traditional human design, it's known as opinions. You can go from answers to opinions, right? You can see how that can just shut down, right? It goes from doubt to answers to opinions. Not really the way you want to inhabit the circuit, but positive anticipation, right? All of these are more expansive, more open, more flexible, right? And so it's kind of helping to bring those qualities that we often associate more with the right brain into this left brain energy. Now, when we can ground ourselves in that energy of the 4, which is being open to possibility, you can see how that can support the 49, that the sun is lighting up, where it's kind of in this place of, Is this relationship working? Is this situation working? What are the terms upon which this relationship is working? Have I been explicit about what those are? Do we actually have agreements about these or am I making assumptions? Can I be more open-minded about possibilities, right? Can I not go into my triggered state, right? But to actually stay more open. And so that 4 can be like, what are the possibilities? What are the possibilities? What else? What else could happen? What about this? What about that, right? Not to make you crazy by trying to undermine things, but just trying to keep things kind of open. And so even when that 49 is going to want to be coming to conclusions to some degree, right? Because part of it is going, are the relationships working or aren't they? Do we need to bring in a catalytic energy that's going to stir things up and make it different, right? That's a possibility. Is it the only possibility? What could be all of the different possibilities of how a relationship could be upgraded and could get better? So that 4 can help the 49 stay open that way, and the 49 can help the 4 stay in a more positive attitude, right? So together, we've got a really nice dynamic going on this week. Now, my invitation to you is to consider for yourself, how are your relationships going? Right? And are you flexible in your relationships, or are you being dogmatic? Are you allowing some flow into this idea of principles and staying in a state of, well, okay, so maybe this happened. I didn't love that. What else could happen? How could it be different? Maybe I don't have to just bail on this, right? And also maybe I don't have to just stay with something that isn't working for me. What could be the other possibilities? This is a very imaginative time, and I encourage you to use it. Let us know down in the comments how this lands for you. If you have either of these defined in your chart, what your relationship to them is, how you're planning on using these energies moving forward through this week. If you haven't already, come and join us in the Becoming Sovereign Virtual Retreat Center. This is the new online community I started at the end of last year. And we have 3 live events that are happening this month, including the crowd pleaser of doing a kind of modified version of a chartathon, which I'm calling a chart reading lab. And that'll be happening in the middle of the month. And so I encourage you to come. You can submit your chart, and maybe you'll be one of the ones that I'll take a reading of. All right. Many blessings. Much love.